that war has just erupted.
There it is. So I let that whole clip run. There's more before and a little more after, but I think Tucker's doing a really credible job of providing the appropriate context and then pointing out just how insane this is. This is insane. One does not simply start a war with a nuclear power because, you know, you feel like it. But that's really this, when that awful Richard Haas of the Council of Foreign Relations said, you know, oh, this is a war of choice on Russia's part. No, it's kind of a war of choice on our part. We had lots of opportunities to de-escalate this, and we didn't. We kept pushing. And right before this war, the invasion started, of course, we sent Kamala Harris over to say, oh, yeah, we kind of, you know, we're in favor. We're excited. Or as Nancy Pelosi would say, if you haven't seen that clip, you got to watch. Flies. At any rate, this worries me a lot. But don't worry, folks. Don't worry. We're in good hands.
Somewhere between $700 billion and $1.3 trillion dollars. Somewhere between $700 billion and $1.3 trillion dollars. Somewhere between $700 billion and $1.3 trillion dollars.
$1.3 billion. Okay, look, the guy is clearly not all there. Anybody who has this guy sign a document for a lease car is guilty of elder abuse and taking advantage in a fraudulent way of somebody who's incapacitated, incapable. He's clearly not capable. But who's running the show? I don't know who the handlers are, but if it's contained by the same people who sort of Jen Psaki represents, we're in bad shape. We're in really bad shape. These are people whose reality is so different from mine, maybe so different from yours, that we have to take it at face value that how they approach reality is unhinged. It's not hinged in any way that I can recognize or respect. In fact, I have a lot of contempt for the people out there who are currently running things because they don't understand what they're doing. Right? Diplomacy could have easily stopped this. This is a war of choice with a nuclear superpower. So that's kind of dumb. All right, just by context, back in 2016, I really believe that this is about neocons. You could read that one. There's the link. I'll link these all down below so you can just click on them. We risk being collateral damage in the neocon lust for war. Next one, in 2014, how the coming confrontation will unfold. That was the original time when we were poking Russia. We saw that thing with Lindsey Graham, with John McCain in the background. That's 2016. So 2014, 15, 16, this was really bad, right? And then I wrote about this in 2014 again at the bottom, the West's reckless rush towards war with Russia. Yes, I consider war with Russia reckless. In fact, in case you can't tell, I'm old school liberal. I don't believe in wars at all. You come to my country, hey, I'll fight you, right? But this whole going around and picking fights with everybody and mostly picking on, and here's the thing, the American exceptionalism, we have not fought a legit foe since World War II. You could talk about maybe Vietnam, there was a slightly legit foe. But since then, Panama, Grenada, Libya, Iraq, Syria, Somalia. I mean, you just keep ticking them off. These are countries, none of them had an air force. None of them had any chance of doing anything other than just sort of being cannon fodder, right? So we haven't been up against a legit foe in a long time. And Russia actually counts as a legit foe. By the way, this is now economic war. Javier Blas writing, this is from today when it says 4 hours. That means from earlier today. Breaking, we saw that U.S. President Joe Biden announced a domestic ban on Russian oil and natural gas imports. We don't import really any natural gas, but it doesn't matter. Biden says America will not subsidize Putin's war. Now, here's the problem. You can't just say we're not going to take Russian oil because there's a certain amount of oil your country needs until you'll get it from somewhere else. That's like saying, I'm not going to breathe any of the oxygen in this room that was made by that plant in the corner. I don't like that plant over there. So I won't breathe any of that oxygen. I'll be breathing different oxygen. Guess what? If there's only so much oxygen in the room and we need all of it, which we do, we need all of the world's daily oil output for it not to collapse, then this is kind of a meaningless gesture right here, but it's really raising the stakes here because it's just one more thing where we're saying, yeah, we're not going to negotiate with you. You're an awful human being, Putin, and that's the end of that. Now, this really isn't a new thing at all. When I told you this was one of the titles, but look at that Newsweek. I love the propaganda. I love tracking the propaganda. I love tracking how they are working to control my mind and yours. Look at that cover of Newsweek. two mushroom clouds in the aviator sunglasses on Putin's face, the pariah, right? So working very hard to create the image that this is the guy, he's responsible. Putin is solely responsible for being this bellicose person when all he's ever said is, as far as I can tell, is do not put your missiles on our border. Now, it's not just Ukraine. Remember, it was just recently that the United States put these intermediate range missiles that are nuclear capable in Poland, right? That's not that far. And Russia's point was, listen, if you put missiles all on our border, we're not going to have reaction time. It's very dangerous. It raises the tensions, and it raises the calculus for how likely a mistake is to happen, because we won't have a lot of time. When you say we've got 10 minutes to notice if an ICBM has been launched, it's coming over the horizon, it's a little different than if we only have 60 seconds to sort of figure out what this blip is that's just racing across our border. So at any rate, there's been a lot of poking and prodding, but the West is, of course, very interested in telling a story, which is, oh, it's just this guy. He's just so mysterious, like somebody who's poking you in elementary school, just poking you from behind, and then you react and they go, oh my God, what a nut job this person is, right? So that's really how I see this. And of course, back in 2014, this is from that article. I found this thing. This was originally written down anti-war. I quoted this in that piece that I just had on the prior slide. But look at this GOP ultimatum. This is a GOP, so this is the permanent Washington. Back then it was GOP. Now it's Democrats. We equal opportunity haters of Putin. Senator Corker had a bill that would declare this is what we were doing, and this is what Russia was reacting to in 2014 and then in 16. Corker's bill would declare Moldova, Georgia, and Ukraine major non-NATO allies of the United States, move NATO forces into Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, accelerate the building of an ABM system in Eastern Europe, authorize U.S. intelligence and military aid for Ukraine's army in the Donbass war with Russian-backed separatists. The U.S. would include anti-tank and anti-aircraft weapons, and that bill S-2277 would direct the Secretary of State to intensify efforts to strengthen domestic institutions inside the Russian Federation, that is, to subvert Vladimir Putin's government looking toward regime change. Now, just take that whole block right there and flip it. And if Russia was doing any of that stuff against us, we, in the United States, the collective we here, we'd be apoplectic. We'd be in a fit of rage. I mean, we were mad that we thought that some Russians might have been slipping some Facebook memes in during the 2016 election. Oh my God, worst thing ever. This is way worse, right? So this is the kind of stuff that's been going on for a long time. So again, U.S. mainstream media, Western media in Europe, just trying to present it as if, oh my God, we don't know what. Putin, he just attacked Ukraine just out of nowhere. What a crazy guy, right? Actually, this has been happening for a long time. So I just wanted you to have that context. Now, here's the context that caught my attention. Back in 2014, Russia tested every single nuclear-capable platform it had, and it fired missiles off to say these things aren't rusty, these aren't Cold War relics. They fired them out of silos, submarines, boats, trucks, trains, every possible platform they had. They fired at least one of them, including ICBMs, torched them off and said, still working, put it on YouTube and put it out to the world to say, what are you guys doing, right? And then in 2016, they took 40 million Russian citizens and put them through an exercise where they all had to go down into bomb shelters, right? So in all their major cities, they all had to go down, during a specified period of time. So at least they practiced it. I don't even know if we have bomb shelters in the U.S. You know why? We don't care. We don't care about our citizens. Putin cares. He cares about his culture. He cares about his people. He's not happy about all of this, I can tell you, but he's also prepared for this. This is what's being miscalculated badly. I might be wrong, but I'm not confused. Our leaders are badly miscalculating the resolve and the intention of what's going on here. And if they miscalculate, if they are not correct in their assumption that American exceptionalism, nobody would ever dare actually punch us back, we are the biggest bully on the block. Well, what happens if it happens? That's what we have to consider. So Russia's been making all the noises it can, saying, stop that, or I might have to react. And then it finally did react by invading Ukraine. Other reading at the site that's around just sort of the arts of persuasion, propaganda, things like that. These are two goodies also from 2016. Apparently a big year for this kind of stuff, I guess. I was writing pretty extensively back then. How to protect yourself from persuasion propaganda. Check that one out. And we're being played lots of examples of how the machinery of propaganda was used to demonize Putin. So this whole demonization, why do people hate Putin so bad? Well, it goes all the way back to this cycle right here. So it wasn't like when the DNC decided to pull a boogeyman out of the hat to explain, why Trump was the worst thing ever. They chose Russia and they chose Putin specifically because there was already a lot of propaganda capital arrayed against Russia and Putin specifically. Why didn't they pick North Korea or some obscure, African dictator?